How much can you actually tolerate someone for? That's one of the questions in this very first episode of mine with an old friend who I have known since 2004. She has recently gone through a divorce and is now back in the dating game, which is completely a different environment than it was when she got married. But really, how long can you tolerate someone? Is it a couple of hours? Is it a day? A weekend? Can you go on holiday together? Do we even ask ourselves if we can? I hope you enjoy this first conversation of mine. And if you have any questions, comments, feedback, I'm all ears. Just keep it kind. I really appreciate you coming on, to be fair. I actually was quite shocked that you got in touch. I would never have gone, yeah, that's someone that will get in touch. So, Why? But just because I'm quite shocked that anybody did. To be honest, I'm quite shocked that anybody interacted with it. You put these things out there and you don't really think that anybody's really listening or watching or reading or whatever. What I want to know, sum up, is who you are, your sexual preference, your current status, relationship status as well. And then we'll go from there.
Okay. I am Egg Cameron. My sexual preference is 100% lesbian. No doubt about that. And my current relationship status, if we were in Facebook in the late 90s, we'd say it's complicated. But in real terms, we'd say almost divorced and dating.
Okay. That sounds, yeah. Facebook. I was going with MSN. Do you remember like age, sex, location? Age, sex, location. And that would be it. Like, do you remember those days?
I do remember those days.
Facebook days.
I'm really glad those days are over.
Oh, God, yes.
Because now you can just see that on dating apps and you don't even need to rule those people out by speaking to them. You can just rule them out without speaking to them.
That's true, because my current experience of dating apps is that even though it's set to I'm only interested in women, I still get men.
Mm.
And even on a female oriented dating app. Are you on that one?
That's the only one I use now because it's all the gays. But yeah, some men do.
Not all the gays.
I don't know how the men get on there.
I don't know how they get on there, but they get on there and then I'm like, have I completed this phase or something? Like, have I completed it? And they're just kind of like the dregs of things.
This is the dregs.
Yeah. Like, you completed it. We got nothing for you now. So either take this or move on to another app.
I love the idea of completing her.
There's so many ways that could be done, right?
So good.
Completing her. Okay, so with Facebook, it's complicated. I've seen those a few times. I've even put that, I think, myself once or twice. So it's complicated, but in real time, almost divorced and dating.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's actually not that complicated. You know, I broke up my long-term, my wife last February.
My long-term wife.
My long-term wife. She was my long-term wife. And we broke up last February, so nearly just over a year ago now. And then it's taken this long for it all to go through, but it's, you know, we are very much apart. It's just a paperwork exercise now. So yeah, I'm kind of delving back into dating, and it's been a really strange time because dating's changed a lot in the time I've been married.
How long have you been married?
8 years.
Holy shit, it's been 8 years.
Yeah. So
wow.
We were together 8 years. So yeah, it's been a really long time, and apps weren't a thing. This whole app, and I really hate the apps, to be honest, because I find it incredibly superficial.
Mm-hmm.
But needs must. You know, this is the way people are doing it these days, and I'm joining shitloads of clubs and everything, and trying to meet people in real life and meet people organically as much as I possibly can. But ultimately, if you want to meet people and get dates, I think apps are just the way to go. So you just got to get over it and get on with it.
I am slightly gutted by that description there, because I find apps really uncomfortable and superficial. If I see someone in their picture, because let's face it, it's all about the picture first. That's what you see first. If I see them pouting or it's a photo shoot, like straight away I'm left.
Like, 100%.
Yeah.
If it's got any kind of filter, Have you seen this weird thing people do where they have a filter, which I'm presuming is something from Snapchat, which is not something I am familiar with as I'm not a Snapchat person because it's for young children.
Hmm.
Uh, but there's something where people write cute all over their face. Have you seen that?
Yes.
And I'm like, what the fuck? Because you're stupid for putting that on your face.
You're stupid for
You're
putting.
stupid. I don't get it. I
Yeah.
don't get why someone would filter their face. Or the other thing that I can't stand is when you've got opportunities to put 6 photos on there, right? So they do literally the same selfie with a slightly different background, but it's the
Mm.
same photo of their face. So for me, as you know, I'm quite into all my like hobbies and sport and outdoorsy things. So I like to see a picture of someone doing something that they like, just to get some idea of like what are you into apart
Yeah.
from pouting at your own face.
Taking a selfie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 24/7. That's what I'm doing. If I'm not at work, I'm taking a selfie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It is weird, but I feel like there's something somewhere that says about taking a selfie because it drives more potentials, but I find them really like awkward, and again superficial. But also I'm not a fan, and this is probably incredibly judgmental of me, maybe. I'm not a fan of those that are more, I don't know if it to say sexual, but like where they literally have the whole point is to focus on their boobs. Their
Yeah.
whole point is to focus on them in their underwear. And it's not that I'm like, don't do that. Absolutely. If you've got the confidence to do it, you do it. Oh my God, you go for it. But it's just not what I'm into.
No, I like to leave a little bit of that to the imagination and that build up of, this is
Yeah.
something we might get to later. I
Like,
don't want to see
I would
that
like
from
this
the
to be a
beginning.
surprise.
Yeah, a nice pleasant surprise for later on.
A pleasant surprise. Bloody hell, egg.
Hopefully a pleasant surprise.
Oh, what a pleasant surprise. Have you seen that thing where they're like, you get your white friend to cheer you on and it goes, oh, lovely.
Yes, that's so true.
But to be fair though, like you were with your wife for 8 years and you're getting a divorce. It appears to be very amicable.
Yeah, I'm extremely fortunate. We've got no hate. We've got no hate at all.
And so,
We've only got love.
for me, it's like, one, how the fuck do you even get to that point? For me, like my relationships last about 3 months. They're not relationships I should ever have been in the first place. Lots of therapy has gone on there. I'm so intrigued by all these people that I'm surrounded by people that aren't like me in that respect, that have these long-term relationships and can do it again and again. How do you go from marriage to then dating again?
Hmm. Well, I think I'm a bit like you in that that's my only long term relationship that I've had. I always talk about the time before, and in the time before, I I really struggled with long term relationships, and I struggled with the commitment aspect of that.
Mm,
And being, I'm just a bit of a free soul. I just felt like I didn't want to be tied down. But when I met this one, it was like she just kind of integrated herself very quickly into my life, and maybe I don't know. We were really happy for a while, but I think what I've realised is, and I had a really interesting conversation with someone recently about this, is marriage is like or any long term relationship. I think the best way you can serve each other is by realising when it's not working anymore.
oof, the best way you can serve each other is
I think,
realizing when it's not working anymore.
yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
because as soon as it, I mean, for me, I had doubts kind of 18 months before we broke up. And I kept
That's a
thinking,
long
oh,
time.
there's excuses, this is going on, that's going on, it'll get better. And I think one of the things that we always had done well earlier in our relationship is just communicate really effectively. And I think that fell down a little bit
Mm,
towards the end, and we weren't necessarily being honest with each other about how we felt and how things were going. And it was just sort of, you're loath to throw something away when you've invested so much time in it. But actually, there's so much more time in front of you that's more valuable. And you can both be happier if you just let it go.
mm.
And I think we both know that we're both going to have happier futures because we'd compromised so much to each other. that
Mm.
neither of us was really doing anything we wanted anymore. We'd reached such a balance of people getting rid of things and kind of investing in what the other person's doing that you just lose your sense of self a little bit. So I think for me, dating now, I'm being it's something I've really reflected on a lot in the last year. That's quite a
Mm.
synopsis of a lot of thinking, but I think I'm very much, I hate the word like finding myself, but I'm figuring out what's working for me and what's
Mm.
making me happy in life right now.
Yeah.
And so when I'm dating, I can't say that I'm dating too seriously because I'm absolutely not ready to compromise again
Mhm.
right now. So if someone wants to slot in and get involved with my stuff and kind of enhance what I'm doing, great. But I'm not ready to invest that much time or emotional energy into somebody else right now. So I think that's kind of where I'm at. And I think there's probably some of that of like coming out of a long-term relationship and finding your own feet again.
Mm.
And when you've kind of been with someone else for so long. But also just a bit of fear really about I don't want to find myself in that situation again. I don't want to
Mm.
kind of
Yeah.
fall into all this compromise and make myself unhappy effectively.
So two things that jump out there is like that sunk cost fallacy. Like we've put so much into this, we must keep going. And
Mm,
it is a fallacy, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, you're actually just losing time, like you said.
yeah.
But the compromise bit, now, when I read stuff or watch stuff or things that are out there is that whole thing of like there is in a relationship there is some compromise that has to be given because otherwise like you're two separate people. There's got to be compromise in your spaces, right? But is it more that it's not about compromising but more about keeping you as a whole person?
Yes,
So
100%.
it's
That is
like two,
definitely what it is.
yeah, rather
Yeah,
than
it's about
merging.
two individual people coming together, not about coming together as one. I hate the term like a unit, like you become together to be one unit. That's
Yeah.
just a massive pile of shit because you're two individual people and you should have your own things that you're interested in and
Yeah.
you should be able to give each other time and space to do those things with other people and you should not everything has to be together.
Hmm.
Me having my own time and space to do things and even my own time and space where that's like a big thing for me for the compromises. It's not like at any point in my relationship I was told you can't do that.
Hmm.
I could have done whatever I wanted, but it's the guilt of I feel like I have to give so much of myself to this person.
Hmm.
And so it's I think there's a lot of that in a lot of relationships is I find myself just like staying in making sure I had dinner ready so that when she came in from work and then she'd be late from work and I'd have sat in all evening for pointless reason.
Hmm.
And I kind of now I don't even have to think about that anymore and I'm very much on my own time. And I think time is something I value so highly.
Hmm.
I pack a lot in to my days and not having to kind of have that thought around what is this other person doing and how's that going to fit into my day. Whereas at least
Yeah.
if I'm dating, I'm like, right, this is like a 3 or a 4 hour slot that I'm going to write into my calendar. And then outside of that, I'm not tied to loads of other time for that
Mm.
person. So that's what I quite like in these early dating stages. Can
So
we
are
just
you
talk
like
about that early dating?
early days? So are you binge dating right
Yeah,
now, or
yeah, I don't know. I guess you could maybe call it that. I'm enjoying meeting people again and having that kind of fresh energy and that excitement that comes with meeting people. But
is
I
it
think
different though?
is it different?
Is it the dating that you're doing now? Is it different to the dating that you were doing before you met your wife?
No, I don't think so. I
No.
think ultimately it's the same. I think dating never really changes, does it? You meet people, you see if there's some chemistry, crack on or don't.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. And the only difference is that getting it off the mark, and that's where the apps come in. And I think that's what's really changed. Is I'm so impatient. That's just I'm just a very very impatient person. So I don't want to have a bunch of small talk.
Hmm.
I know you're one that hates small talk as well. Because like, what do you say to these people? And you don't, and also you don't want to waste loads of time chatting to someone where there is no chemistry either.
Hmm.
So I can't be doing with any of that. So as soon as I match with that person, I'm like, right, well, let's just say hello and meet up for a chat because this is like a means to meeting up in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've found is a bit of a trend on there is that people are just really lonely. And I think people just want to have that back and forth conversation without necessarily having to meet, which I find really peculiar because I'm here for real life interaction. That's what I enjoy. And I don't want to have a long message exchange to spend loads of time back and forth with someone I've never met. I find that peculiar.
It is weird. I mean, to be fair, there's not really anybody knocking down my door on the old apps, but to be honest, but when you do fall into that, hello, hi,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
are you?
Yeah.
I'm good. How are you? Fucking hell.
Or even the standard interview questions. When people are like, well, what's your job? I'm like, that's just so fucking boring. Can you just be a little bit more interesting, please? And that's why having something on your profile that says a little bit of something about you, it gives you something to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just not, if people start with the really standard questions, I'm just like, look, I want to answer this in person. Either we're going to do that or this is not going to work for me. And that sounds really harsh, but I don't have time. I don't have time for that. I just, I want to just meet people in person and see like what they're like.
Yeah. Did you meet your wife through an app or was it?
Well,
Ooh.
technically, there wasn't apps back then, but it was through like a dating website. Because there weren't apps then. It was online, you know?
What? Because do you know what's coming? There's a memory coming to my brain. Did I turn 30 and you rocked up for a second?
Yeah.
And then we found out that I went on a date with someone that you went on a date with. And that was from the same place.
I can't remember. That's so funny. That's classic lesbian. I don't know.
Yeah. But for
That was,
me, where I don't cross over with any people,
I can't
that was
remember
very
who that was
intense.
now, but I do have recollection of that happening. That's so funny. That must have been a little bit before I met her.
So it must have been.
That was
What website was that?
Plenty of Fish. Gaydar. It wasn't. It was after Gaydar. Do you remember Gaydar?
Gaydar was.
Gaydar Girls was just a bomb.
So yeah, maybe it was Plenty of Fish.
Yeah, so we technically met on Plenty of Fish, but it was a slightly interesting scenario because a mutual friend of ours had been trying to introduce us for like 4 or 5 months. She kept sort of setting up scenarios where we'd both be there, and for one reason or another, one of us wasn't. So we knew of each other. So when I actually came across her, she knew of me and I knew of her. So we met up really quickly because there wasn't that kind of vetting period where you're like, is this person actually who they says they are, and a normal person, real person? So we kind of just cracked on and met up really quickly, which was good. And we kind of knew that we were both safe because we had that trusted friend in the middle who still takes credit for it, even though technically we did actually meet on the website. She's not taking credit for it anymore now that we're divorced. She's like, no, there's nothing to do with me.
I mean, yeah. Oh, complicated. So yeah, God, website. It was websites before it was apps, and now apps are just. Now you've got to really like decide on where you want to be when it comes to dating apps.
Well, I guess with the website, you saw a profile page, right? So it was like a thumbnail picture and information. So it was more involved in reading the information. Whereas, as you say now, you just see a picture and you're just swiping purely based on the first picture that you see, which I hate.
Yeah, I'm on 2 different ones. One of them, I'm actually on Hinge.
Right.
It was a joke thing we were setting up for someone else, but I was like, I'll go on there and have a look at what it's like. So I'm still on there. And you actually get to leave like videos or voice memos as well.
Okay.
So on your profile, there's pictures, you can do voice and what have you, which is a little bit more interactive. Still nothing, but like.
So are you just sat there waiting for someone to come to you, or are you proactively seeking?
Oh, I'm like, so with her, you can like, but you can't message, can you?
You can send a friend request, which is like cheating the system, but yeah.
Yeah. Whereas with Hinge, you can like and comment on, it might be that they put a picture or a poll or something and they write something, which is designed to get you chatting. And so, no, nothing.
Oh,
Nothing.
I feel like
Nothing.
someone needs to come and vet what you're saying in case you're just being mega awkward and we need a bit of coaching or something.
I'm fucking awkward anyway, so they might as well know what they're getting into, which is awkward. Like, there's not one person that doesn't know me that goes, nah, shakes their head at me like, nah, you can't do this shit. Dating for you. What? Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't work. It doesn't work. I mean, I haven't been on a date for a very long time. No
Yeah.
one needs to know how long. But what I'm intrigued about, so you are back dating, you've been married, and before you were married, it wasn't really a thing that you were looking for.
No.
Being, as you said in the beginning, being 100% lesbian,
Hmm.
one thing I have kind of picked up on from my therapy, one thing I picked up on is, for me, people say they grew up like knowing that they wanted to get married, knowing they wanted kids and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, well, I didn't, but I didn't because I didn't know it was available to me. It wasn't available to it. It wasn't legal. What was love to you growing up? And is it the same idea that you had then as what it actually has turned out to be?
That's a really interesting question. I think love to me growing up, I had a lot of love in my family life growing up.
Mm.
That was something I had. I had a
You can
wonderful
see it with your
development.
mum and your sister.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. There's a
yeah.
lot of love in the family, and I think that's so. I think for me, love, and we talk about this whole thing about love languages these days, and I've done a lot of thinking about that as well. And for me, quality time is just so important. The time that you spend with people, and everyone's so addicted to their phone these days. If I spend some time with someone and nobody's on their phone, that for me is just the most wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Where someone is fully engaged and present, is so important. And I think that's how I know that I'm really into somebody, is when I don't even want to look at my phone. I don't have the distraction, when I'm just like
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
absolutely engaged. And that's kind of, I recognize that a bit.
Mm.
Because I am, a bit like everybody, you're a bit addicted to like your phone and all the messages and all the content you're putting out on all different platforms. I'm
Mm.
absolutely addicted to Strava. I just can't get off the thing. I'm addicted to know where everyone's been running and where everyone's been cycling and how fast they've been going and all that kind of stuff. So I think the quality time and being present is definitely so important, and it's something that's really valued in my family. Us
Mm.
spending a lot of time together, and so I think that that's important to me. In terms of, I never imagined having kids, but it's not something I've ever wanted.
Mm.
I know I've talked to you about this many years ago, but I kind of have got this concept that us gays were put here on the planet to help reduce the population. And I think I kind of think as a gay, that's part of our obligation to society. Where if you want to adopt a kid that's already in the world, cool. But I really don't think we need to be adding more kids to this already
Mm.
overpopulated planet. Honestly, but that's obviously come from me and I'm not maternal. I've never wanted kids.
Yeah.
Something I've been interested in. Just always wanted puppies. That's it. So yeah, and I never really particularly thought about getting married, and I never thought about love really. I'm a real thinker. I'm a thinker,
Mm.
not a feeler. I'm always like rational brain, what's going on. I'm always head over heart all the time. And I've always really thought that love wasn't really a thing. It's
Mm.
like a construct of society, and the concept of falling in love. I don't get it. I don't understand. For me, that would have to be like the set of criteria that makes
Mm.
that true thing. I can't get on board with just, oh, you just know, because
Yeah.
I don't know, you don't, and your feelings change over time. They just change day by day,
Mm.
based on your hormones and your mood and all the other stuff that's going on in your life. So I suppose in my marriage, it's what worked so well for us. This sounds so unromantic, but what worked so well for us is how well we could tolerate one another. And it's like how much time you can spend with one other person without them annoying you.
Yeah. Okay. That sentence probably should go before how well we tolerate each other, because I was like, wow, shit. Been looking at this all wrong.
Yeah.
How
But
much can I tolerate somebody?
I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, I think
But it's
that,
true.
that is a big
That is
part,
true.
especially with lesbians who are destined to move in with each other, in a few weeks and shack up and all that classic
So
thing.
I'm not a lesbian then, because that has never been on
It's
my
never happened
fucking
to you.
radar.
But I think that is a big part of it. And
Mm.
but then yeah, and equally something that worked really well for us in our relationship was how we did not tolerate the same things in other people. So we were equally intolerant of like certain types of people who we didn't want to
Okay.
bring into our life, our
Mm.
unit to life. So yeah, I think that was something that was really interesting. I think there's a lot about being on the same wavelength, and I think there's a lot about if you are going to get into a relationship, about something I really value is being on the same kind of intellectual wavelength, the same humor wavelength, and not necessarily having the same views and the same values, but just understanding each other
Mm.
on that level. I think that's something that's really important as well.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. Because if you have two completely different humors, oh, that could go
Yeah.
down very badly, very quickly, right?
Yes, definitely. And I've actually noticed that with someone I dated recently, that I'm definitely like a bit more sarcastic, and she does not get it and doesn't really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
If someone doesn't get sarcasm,
And
like,
not for you.
no, not sure that's. I don't understand people that don't get sarcasm.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. What? What? Just no, absolutely not. But
Yeah.
so with that, knowing that though, the kind of feeling sides of it have never been your thing. It's been more logical. Why the fuck did you get married then? Like, what was the purpose of that? Normally people are getting married because they're like, oh, you're the one. I can't.
Mm.
What? I mean, it's not
Well,
even like it's America. It's not tax
definitely,
purposes.
yeah, no, we could just see a future together.
Yeah.
We got along so well. We just, it was so easy and safe, and we just enjoyed the time that we spent together, and it just seemed like the obvious next step. Like, why shouldn't we do this? And
Mm.
I could just, I honestly, at that moment in my life, could imagine that I would have been with her forever. I don't think you ever enter into anything like that without thinking that. I don't know. I didn't. I thought,
Yeah.
this is it. This is someone that I can imagine spending the rest of my life with. But then people change, and when I got the divorce lawyer, he was like, "Do you know the average age of a marriage is 5 years?" And I was like, "Bloody hell!" I thought that's really sad. And he said, "Not if you're a divorce lawyer, but I just think I think people evolve and people change so much, and I've seen I've got a lot of friends, older friends, who have been married many, many years, and they've evolved together. And I think you either evolve together or you evolve separately. And if you evolve separately, you change, and you suddenly are not as compatible as you were at a point of your life. And I think that's the same for any type of relationship, whether it's friendships, family. People come and go in your life, and people serve purpose in your life for a certain time. And I've got some friends, you included, who are in my life for a really long time, and it's not like I'm in their pockets all the time, but it's people who you can just go back to, and
Yeah. When did we meet? We met in
2004.
2000. I was thinking about that this morning. I was like, when was it? Was it 2004? Or was it 2005?
Yeah.
Which is a fucking long time.
Yeah.
I remember rocking up. I was just running away from my life. And I remember rocking up, and I can't remember her name, but the woman that showed me to where we were staying for that training week.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, cool. So who's my bunkmate and what have you? And she was like, oh, her name's Ellen. And immediately the first question that came out of my mouth was, has she got ginger hair? Yes. I'd just broken up with my girlfriend who had ginger hair, who was called Ellen. And she laughed at me, thought it was really fucking weird, but said no. And I was like, the relief.
Yeah.
However,
then you met me. You're like, oh, fuck.
The fact that they put the two lesbians, like, it's not even like it was in the application form.
No. I think we ended up together because we were the most similar in age. because we're only like 10 days apart or something in age.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm sure that was the reason, and it just by chance. But yeah, it was so funny.
Just to put the two of us together, and like we are very different people. You were a very like not a very different person then. I mean, we both were. We, I've got recollections of, do you remember that time we sat outside and just drank a shot of like cider every minute?
Yeah, I vaguely
Um,
remember
yeah, and like blackout nights, laying on. I don't remember laying out in the grass, but someone telling me that I was laying there. They took you home, and you
Yeah,
were like, "I'm going to go down the grass and look at the stars too." And I was
yeah,
like, None of this happened."
yeah.
Whereas now I don't drink. I haven't drunk for over a year. I actually exercise. I'm quite self-aware now, which is fucking weird. Slight burden sometimes. Just a completely different person, I think, to back then.
I find this really funny that we were so different then, and we're still so different now. But we've
Hmm.
both evolved in along that same kind of journey. We've both become a lot healthier and become a lot more self-aware, and I just think that that's really interesting.
It's
Um,
fascinating.
yeah,
It
it's
is fascinating. The stories from back then, like those. What was it? 2 years you were there for?
yeah,
2 years.
yeah, 18 months. Yeah,
Woof. And just how different people can be. And as you say, like any relationship, if it's not that kind of intimate relationship, but friendships and family and stuff like that, they all are ones where you either kind of grow side by side. I think it's more not grow together, but grow side by side, or you grow apart. And while there's similar stuff to how we've grown, we're still very different. Like we were very different people.
yeah.
I don't ever remember falling out with you though.
No, no,
No,
no. We never
no.
fell out. We were just,
Oh my God,
different people,
virtual
and
high five on that front. But I remember though, because and I still am very hesitant with people, especially in that intimate space. And even back then, I was very hesitant and very much not willing to put myself forward. But I was always quite, um, all I've got coming to my brain is like in awe of the fact that you were always very confident, and the stories that you had of before you got there, and God knows what stories during the time that you were at PGR. And those are all the people that are like that, very confident. I was very, very envious
mm,
of that, and how people can be so confident with other people when it comes to that intimate relationship, how they can put themselves out there, how they can do it again and again and again. What would you say it is that allows you and has allowed you to do that this whole time?
I think this is a bit of my own self-discovery in the last year is like a bit of a lack of empathy.
Okay, so sociopath, yep.
So I'm saying that I don't feel things too deeply, and I don't
Mm,
take on other people's emotions. And I think
mm-hmm,
so even if things have been hard, or if I mean, I've never really had like a bad breakup, to be honest. I've got quite reasonable or good relationships with most people I've had any kind of relationship with. But even if it has been a bit sour, I don't take that on. I
mm,
don't carry it forward. So it's almost like every new thing is just a new opportunity. And
mm-hmm,
I'm not tainted by a bad experience, because I just
yeah,
think that was that and this is different.
mm-hmm,
And I kind of trust that, I don't know, I've just got quite a positive outlook on it, I guess. And I just trust that something good's going to happen, and you don't have to sort of keep looking back on any bad experiences you've had if you've
yeah.
had them. But I mean, but back in the day, I mean, you did okay. You can't say you didn't do okay back then, because I remember that
No,
you did.
yeah, no, I did all right. Yep, thanks. But I think, but that for me, I think that's again something that separates us is that I always wore everything, every rejection, and
Mhm.
and that kind of stuff. So I've always been envious of those that I see that don't do that, that are able to either like face rejection or have to reject that other person And even back then, that seemed to be what you were like. And it's just because yes, I'm very empathetic and I do feel things and all that kind of stuff. And fuck me, ever since I took those mushrooms, it seems to have got deeper. Like, it's ridiculous. For me, I needed alcohol
Mm.
to do any of that. None of what happened when I was at PGL, none of what happened around that time would have happened if I didn't have alcohol.
Yeah.
Whereas for you, it didn't seem like that was something that was necessary.
No, that just made it extra fun.
Yeah, there you go. You see, so there's like this separator, but you don't let any of it you don't take that baggage with you. But even back then, how old were we? Like 18, 19, 20? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
about
18.
that. Like
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
ridiculous. We're all still working shit out and just being dickheads.
Yep.
But even back then, you're not carrying it with you. What was that? Like, where did that come from?
I
Like,
don't know.
how do you operate in a world, even at the age of like 18, 19, where you don't allow any of that? You don't allow any of that to move forward with you.
It's a pretty difficult question to answer. Do you know, because we talk about the impact of your family and stuff. And
Mm,
whilst I grew up with loads of love, my family are full of empathy.
mm,
So I guess I'm a little bit anomalous in that sense. Is
yeah.
that a word? That's a word.
You're a non. Oh fuck. I get
Yeah.
anybody that's listening will understand what we're trying to say
Yeah.
here. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't replace what it is. I think I just I just try not to be too serious about life.
Mm-hmm.
In general, that's always been my outlook, is just don't take things too seriously, because why, if you're just going to bring yourself down? And I've always tried to, I am naturally quite enthusiastic, positive type person, which is maybe the times that we have clashed,
Mm.
where maybe I'm like, I can be a bit much for people who are not like that.
I mean, let's face it. Back then, I was angry, reserved.
I was not going to say it, but yeah,
Dude, no,
we were quite opposite
absolutely.
in that
Yeah,
respect.
yeah.
And I don't know, just yeah, just don't have, I just don't make space for negativity.
It's
I
just
just I
not
just
in your
don't
DNA,
tolerate it. I
right?
don't take it on. I just let it go, and just
Mm.
I don't surround myself with people who have a negative energy either. I think for me, I try and put as much positive stuff out into the world, and you tend to get positive stuff back. And then
Yeah,
for those
I
people
like
who
that.
don't, I just don't engage with them.
How the fuck did we stay roommates then? Like,
Ah, yeah. I don't think
fucking-
either of us was actually in that room that much, to be totally fair.
no, let's face it, that wasn't happening. Okay, so I'm trying to formulate this question in my brain that's kind of like chipping away. You say that you haven't really experienced heartbreak, or like, is it because of this that it's not really a thing that you would experience?
Hmm. No, yeah, I don't think I have, and I'm not certain that I will. But I also think, to some extent, I am a bit too light-hearted with everything, and I'm reluctant to get into something with someone who I think that I will feel too deeply for. Is something
Woof.
I fear.
Mm,
Think. So I have met some people in my life who have made me feel things,
mm,
um, and I've run away a bit from that, because I'm like, oh, actually, no, this has the potential to bring me
yeah.
down in the future, or it's like it's too much of a risk for me.
This flies in the face of everything you have just spoken
Yeah, I know,
about.
but it's like I'm protecting myself from
Yeah.
potentially feeling bad. So
But
I think,
why, like, why though?
I don't know.
Why? Because at the end of the day, if it's
'Cause I don't
anything
want to
to
feel
us,
sad.
you
And
don't want to feel
I've
sad.
seen so
Okay.
many people
Hmm.
like be absolutely have their lives melted by
Hmm.
heartbreak relationships, and I don't want to put myself in that place. So whilst I think uh, I am lighthearted about pretty much everything, and I've met some brilliant people, and I enjoy getting to know people, but I'm always I wouldn't say ever quite 100% like fully invested.
Hmm.
There's always a bit I'm holding back.
But is that fair though? Because
Oh
do
no,
you ask the same? Do you ask the same of the other person? Like,
I
hey,
don't want to
man,
get.
give me whatever you want.
Yeah, well, I think I'm pretty upfront. I certainly am now with
Mm.
people who I'm dating. I'm
Yeah.
pretty upfront about where I'm at in terms of kind of commitment.
Yeah.
And I think it's that thing where I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, I reckon I can change your mind." I'm like, "Well, I'm not sure."
It's like a fortress.
Yeah,
Like you don't get
yeah, good
in.
luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So without, I don't know, sounds makes me sound like a bit of a dick, but um, I am honest with people. I'm really open. I'm really upfront, and I do make sure that I communicate what I think
Mm.
about it. So I think that's as much as I can do, and I don't ask for anything specifically, only as much as I'm giving them on all, or, for the
Yeah.
people I date. All I really want is their time and their good communication, and for us to have a good time.
Yeah. That's an interesting one. Because I know what that's like to not give all of it. That's literally what I've done every single time.
Mm,
Um, and yes, that scares me. Is going okay? I'm all in.
yep.
That's cool. Never experienced that. But to hear someone actually say that they're okay with that, like that you're okay with not giving 100%, not give, whether it's 90%, 8%, whatever that looks like. That's really interesting because I think that we're kind of almost taught or we see through all the different mediums that we're supposed to, right? That we're
Yep.
supposed to give everything. Like it's all this whole thing and like but it sounds like you've never actually been taken in by that
No,
whole
who
theory.
tells you that? I don't believe these constructs of society. Like, why? Everyone's different,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I don't. I really, yeah. I've always, I guess, thought a little bit differently, and definitely about the whole like kids and marriage. And I'm like, I'm different to that anyway.
Mm.
So none of this stuff applies to me. And but I kind of think, and what I see now, I'm going a bit of on a tangent here, but what I see now, especially on the apps and stuff, is there's so many different ways people have relationships.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but it seems to be for me, like on the outside, a massive growing trend towards polyamory and people in or ethical non-monogamy. I had to Google it, ENM, because I didn't know what it was when I went on the app. And I was just like, what the fuck is this? But and so I think that there's people are making space for lots of different ways to do relationships in ways that
Hmm.
work for them. And again, this is a conversation I've had recently when I've been dating is people you can get different things from different people.
Hmm.
So when you talk about that your need for like intellectual conversation or your need for just having an absolute belly laugh or your need for just amazing sex,
Yeah.
you might not get all of that from one person. And I'm not I like the kind of idea of monogamy as a concept. But I can appreciate how you can get lots of different things from different
Yeah.
people. And I suppose that's why I really value my friendships, not for the great sex, but for all the other aspects that
Mm.
you need, to get in your life.
Mm.
So
Now you bring it up because I had this conversation with someone the other day about sex and what that is in a relationship. I have people that are like, oh, like it's a thing, and others that are like, oh, I mean, it's like I had sex like 2 weeks ago. Is it something that you feel is important in a relationship, or?
yeah, it is definitely something that I think is important.
Mm.
Uh, and I've spoken to a lot of people about this in the last year as well, and seen that massive diversity of people, especially in long term relationships. And there's no everybody has a different answer to this.
Hmm.
And I've heard loads of different things. Some people who just still regularly have sex, even though they've been together for a very long time.
Mm.
Some people who don't have any sex, but they're really content with every other part of their relationship. And equally, some people who have said, it's more like a comfort thing these days. It's like something that we do, but it's something that just brings us closer together. It's not about that passion or that excitement that you might have
Mm.
at the start of a relationship. But for me, the physical intimacy is really important.
Yeah.
It's something I do really value in a relationship, and that comes in lots of different forms, not just sex, but like just being physically close to one another
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all that kind of physical touch and physical contact. That's really important to me. So yeah, it's definitely something that I value highly in a relationship.
And so for you, it would be, I hate this term because I hear it so much nowadays, but like it would be a game changer for you. Because I think one thing when I was young and immature, I would say that someone is bad at sex.
Mm.
And now I'm more like, is it that actually you're just not compatible?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that's definitely it. It's people are either compatible or not. Well, I think no, that's a lie. You're either compatible or not, but you've also got some opportunity to grow and become more compatible together. I think.
And
I
how does
think
that work? Like how does
just
that work? Is it communication? Is it
yeah, I think a
yeah.
lot of it is communication. I think you can't guess when it comes to this, and I think
Mm,
as I've grown older, I've well, certainly in the last, since a period of that I've been dating, and I'm now dating people who are much older than when I was dating before. So being in that more mature age of dating, people are more willing to communicate and know what they want more.
mhm.
And I
So
think that's
that's a
yeah,
maturity thing.
that's a maturity thing. I think maybe when you're young, you don't even know what you want necessarily. You're willing to try lots of different things and you're
Mhm.
not exactly sure what it is, and maybe you don't have the confidence to say what it is that you want. Whereas I think now that people are older, I think, yeah, people are more open to saying that and growing. And
Yeah, so there's a lot of like confidence and communication
yeah,
and boundary setting and
yeah,
all that shit that goes on, which you either fall forward with it, I feel like, or you consciously are making that effort to put those things in place. Otherwise, it's all just
yeah,
yeah, grow
yeah. I mean,
together or get out, basically.
yeah, definitely. And there are some people who you're probably never going to be that compatible with, and
Hmm.
you've got to recognize that as well and be like, "Do you know what, this isn't working," and it's okay to say that. It's not like uh, you can't take all of that stuff really personally.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of the time with dating, what I see is that you meet someone a couple of times, they think, "All right, we've got to push forward with this. You've got to push forward with this." And again, it's just about recognizing that time that you know what, this isn't working for me, and being and just communicating it.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
this
yeah,
whole culture around like ghosting or whatever, or not feeling it, so I'm just not going to say anything. And I think everybody would be happier if we all knew what was going on.
do you know what? That's so true. I mean, the ghosting culture is just made too easy by the apps,
Yeah,
and it is made way too easy. It's way too. It almost just is something that is done, isn't it? It's
yeah.
just accepted that this is something, even though no one actually likes it.
Yeah, and fair enough.
Um,
If you're having like a few messages and then you're not feeling it and you just ignore them, fair enough. And I can get on board with that,
mm,
whatever. And there's loads of things. People have got all sorts going on in their life. They might be dating those people and they've suddenly decided to date someone more seriously, and they don't need to disclose that to someone they've had a few conversations with. It's
yeah,
whatever. But I think once you've met someone in person, it is socially unacceptable to ghost them. That's,
socially unacceptable. Is yeah, I feel like it is. I mean, it's something that I probably would have done,
yeah,
but probably moving forward would like to be a little bit less dickish
yeah,
about it
yeah.
and a bit more adult and mature and responsible for my part in someone else's feelings. Oh, that's
Yeah, that's good. Taking responsibility. I think
yeah.
that's important. I think, but people find it awkward. They don't know like how to say that or whatever. And that's why I think sometimes you just need to be a little bit blunt and just say what you think, because I think it's way better that someone just knows than they're
Mhm.
left wondering.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up in a second.
Oh.
Is there anything that you would like to ask me?
Well,
I
there's
didn't
so
want
many
to.
things. We need to do a whole other podcast where I can do questioning,
I
please.
didn't. I'm purposely not asking, setting people up beforehand because I don't want them to think about it too hard beforehand. Is there anything that you would like to ask me, and I will answer as best as I can?
Well, I should have thought about this more in advance. But I suppose what I really want to know is like, what do you feel is holding you back?
Oh, to be fair, that is an easy one. It's rejection. Because I'm very much in that space, and I've been in therapy, just winding up therapy now, and I've been in that like therapy for what, 3.5 years. And it's been one of those, like, the whole peel back the layers, like go around in circles for a bit, then we'll go a little bit deeper, go around in circles for a bit, maybe go a bit deeper, maybe take a step back. And it's absolutely from doing the therapy, and even what was shown to me during my trip back in March last year, it's rejection.
Yeah.
It holds me back in a massive way, because I wear rejection like my favorite hoodie. And so it's something that I've had to really, really work with and understand that actually it's not really about me.
No, but
And
what action can you take to move forward from that?
the actions that I'm kind of not realizing that I know, and I'm dragging like myself kicking and screaming, is that I just have to do it. Like there's nothing else that can be done other than doing what needs to be done to experience it, and to know that you still live after you may get rejected. And also the concept is that I actually might reject someone, which to me is completely like blows my brain, that I would be the one to reject someone else, even though actually I've been doing that for a long time. But yeah, it's that fear of rejection. I've had that my entire life, in friendships, colleague, like everything. It has touched everything. And so it is a case of I just have to do it. And I think part of recording these conversations is about getting more comfortable with talking about it out loud, because I think that there is power in saying things rather than just saying it in your head.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the whole thing. Thanks for that one.
Pleasure.
You never know. But I haven't set myself like I will find love by the end of the year. It's more that I will be accepting and open, even though I thought I was open to it. I actually wasn't. I was just like, yeah, I want to be that person that's in a relationship. But I absolutely was not open to it. My energy does not say, please come and talk to me, or like have a chat. It doesn't at all.
Yeah.
So it's moving towards that energy. But yeah.
I back that energy 100%.
Yeah.
Get out there. Yeah.
Fuck. But where are the lesbians at?
Manchester, come up my way. There's loads.
Fucking Manchester. Jesus Christ.
So many of them.
It's too expensive to go dating in Manchester, for God's sake. I need something 5 minutes down the road. Have you seen what the cost of petrol is?
Oh,
but yeah. Well, thank you very much. It's been quite enlightening, actually.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd love to have more conversations with you, just in general.
Oh my God, we'll touch back on that.